Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, and this is my sixth book critique. I decided to do this week's set on international books. I chose this topic because I think that these types of books will help students understand different cultures and therefore help them become better global citizens. So, my featured text for this week is The Keeping Quilt by Patricia Polacco. This is a Russian picture book that's for grades 3rd through 5th, and it received a Sidney Taylor Book Award in 1988. So this book is about the story of a quilt passed down through generations, and it talks about each generation and the family traditions that have surrounded the quilt. So I thought that this was a really fun book, and I also really loved the illustrations in it. So my first lesson for this book would be a math lesson. So I think that as a class, we can make our own quilt, sort of similar to one in the story. But before we make the quilt, we should make a plan for making the quilt, and the plan can be to be made for the size and the shape of the quilt, and this way it can incorporate measurements as well as perimeter and area, and then students would be responsible for bringing their own piece of material to add to the quilt, and they have to make sure that it's the correct measurement, and then eventually each piece would be connected to make an entire quilt. So I connected this to Common Core math standards for 3rd grade, having to do with area and perimeter. My second lesson would be a history lesson where students could conduct further research about different things in Russian culture, such as like wedding traditions or the gender roles or what a typical family is like. And then students could create presentations displaying the information they found, and they could use their own choice of presentation style. But I would encourage the students to use lots of visuals to accompany their writing. So this is also from the Common Core Standards for grade 4 about writing informative text and developing a topic with facts and details and information. So I created an example, and I decided to use ThingLink. So I just used the background to be a picture of a wedding, and I used the little things to talk about different traditions that they had at a Russian wedding. One of the funnest traditions I think I want to share with you guys, it's called bride napping. So the family members would kidnap the bride, and then the groom would have to pay a ransom in order to get her back. And it's all fun and games, but the groom actually gives a ransom, which is like usually jewelries or flour or chocolates or something like that. So I thought that was a super fun tradition, and I'm not Russian, but I think it'd be fun to incorporate that into my wedding. So that was my example. These are my other books. Next is The Wall, Growing Up Behind the Iron Curtain by Peter Sis. This is an international book having to do with in the Czech Republic. This is for grades 3rd through 5th, though I think it'd be challenging for those grades, so I would recommend reading this in like a guided reading groups. It received a Caldecott Medal in 2008 and is also a Sibert Medal in 2008. And this book is, it takes on the serious topic of communism and Cold War, and from the life of a child who was born to be an artist. So it's a challenging book, but I think it's a good way to approach serious topics with children. So my next book is called Miret on the High Wire by Emily Arnold McCauley. This is an international picture book, and the setting is in France. This is for 1st and 2nd grade, and it received a Caldecott Medal in 1993. So this is about a young girl who is taught to walk on a tightrope by a famous tightrope walker, and she actually helps him overcome his fears as well. I chose this book because the language it uses, like Monsieur and Bravo and other like French sayings, so that was fun. The next book is Rumpelstiltskin by Paul O. Zielinski, and this is a German fairy tale for first or second grade, and it received a Caldecott honor in 1987. And this is about a queen who is in debt to a little man for saving her life, and she owes him her first child unless she can figure out his name. So I've heard of Rumpelstiltskin before, but I never actually knew the story or any story behind it. So this was actually really fun for me to read as well. And my last book is Lampopo by Ed Yong. This is a Chinese picture book, and it is for first and second grade, and it received a Caldecott Medal in 1990. This is a story similar to Little Red Riding Hood, but it takes place in China. So thank you for watching my last book critique.